I should say at the start here that I wasn't planning on buying this phone at all. But year after year, I go out and I buy the flagship phones, and my habit got the best of me. And even though I wasn't very excited about the Samsung Galaxy S21 line, I was, getting a latte at the Starbucks, sitting in line, and just thought, well, I might as well go for it. So it was off to the Best Buy with latte in hand to grab the S21 Ultra. I've gone on record with my frustrations about the lack of a charger in the box and how that is lame. The removal of the SD card reader, the lower screen resolutions on the lower tier models of the S21 line. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. The gold accented camera modules on some of the models. All of that aside, I decided to go for the S21 Ultra in black because black is how I feel on the inside. And it's the only color that I thought was worth getting at all. I will say this, if it weren't for the generous trade-in programs that Samsung has, I wouldn't have bothered to get this thing at all. I didn't want to output a bunch of money to use this phone. While the S21 models have lowered prices in compared to the S20 models before them, and they start at $800 and go up to $1,200, and they're probably cheaper even now because it's a couple of months later, they offered me $750 trade for my Note 20, and so I decided to go for it. So, with new phone in tow, I swapped my SIM out of the iPhone 12 Pro Max into the S21 Ultra and went about my day. The phone, physically, the phone is heavier than I expected. It's thicker than previous phones, and the weightiness actually is kind of welcome. I know some people complain about heaviness. This isn't heavy like the iPhone 12 Pro Max is heavy. Some Android phones have felt a little light to my taste. Even some of them have kind of hollow when you tap on them, and that just doesn't give me a feeling of security. So I'm glad that this is a solid slab. I mean, the metal, it goes all the way around the camera module here. It's really pretty impressive. I mean, Samsung has absolutely nailed the design on this thing, and it is about as good a phone as I've ever held in my hand. I mean, the glass back here, the matte glass, is maybe my favorite matte glass of any that has been put into a phone so far. It's hard to say what brings that on. Samsung went into great detail about how black they made the black and etc. But the thing that matters to me is no fingerprint retention, no greasiness, no nothing. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, the matte finish trend of the past couple of years has helped alleviate that sort of wet bar of soap, greasy hot dog in your hand feel that so many phones have had over the past several years. Almost a month in, now a little bit more than a month in now, and I still enjoy the feel of this phone when I pick it up. The solid metal on the sides feels good and somewhat grippy, and the back is smooth and like a baby's bottom, and I really like it. What about how this phone works? This is where it gets a little weird and kind of indicative of where smartphones in general are at the moment. If you look at the S21 in a bubble, not holding the missing features I mentioned before against it, it's a really good phone. It's a fine phone. It's really actually pretty spectacular, honestly. Maybe the best Samsung phone that they have produced to this point. And yes, I have my favorites, the Note 9, the Note 7, others along the line for Samsung, but the iterative updates of the Galaxy S21 Ultra, it's clearly another step forward to Samsung perfecting their own flavor of the Android phone, and it's just about as good as I think it's been to this point. All the expected features are there: the bright screen, the bold and the brilliantness, the materials, as I said, are about as good as you can get in a smartphone at this point. The camera has so many lenses, it looks practically an arachnid in its presentation. The camera app is feature rich, and Samsung probably does the most for the average user in the Android world of helping them take good photos, offering suggestions for composition and digital zoom that could show you the wings of a flea on the back of a dog's rear end about 100 yards away, 8K video that's so sharp you'll slice your eyeballs with it. It would be nice to have an additional SD card storage to offload some of that giant 8K footage, but alas, that ship has sailed, as we've discussed. With how well devices manage storage these days between your phone, the cloud, etc., it'll probably be fine power users are definitely concerned, and I don't blame them. The majority of people buying this phone, though, will never have to worry about storage. It comes with 128 gigabytes of storage on the base model. You can get more. 128 has never been a problem for me. Back in the days, we used to get 16, 64, and now it's 128. So I think the average user is never going to have a problem. There are a few things I want to mention that have been an issue in the past that aren't an issue this time around, and I feel like it's worth talking about. The fingerprint reader, the under-the-screen fingerprint reader on smartphones has not been always the best experience. It's been a little buggy. It's been a little slow. I will say that this phone is the only phone I've used to this point with an under-the-screen fingerprint reader that has not made me touch it 100 times. It works 95% of the time, if not better. Also, a bugaboo, a thing that has bothered me about Samsung over the past few years that has been finally taken care of is these edges are relatively fat and square, which is an amazing change because over the past several years, Samsung has had these sort of drop-off screen and no matter what I did, false touches always made the phone do something that I didn't want it to do, and it was really frustrating, and that's a big part of why I would always throw Samsung phones to the side. This phone has not had a single problem with false touches whatsoever. In terms of sound, you've got this on the bottom. You've got kind of a stereo thing going on here, but as with a lot of other phones, the stereo balance isn't all that great. It does have Dolby Atmos. It sounds about as good as most smartphones are going to sound, which to me is not really saying very much, but I know a lot of people care about the sound feature, so I've tested it out, and it does sound good. It's probably as good as cheap Bluetooth speakers were a couple of years ago, so there is that. No headphone jack. No headphones in the box with the USB-C. So if you want to use wired headphones, you're going to have to find some to buy, which kind of stinks because there's not too many USB-C wired headphones out there these days. Samsung really wants you to buy into their line of Galaxy Buds. These are the Buds Live. They have the Buds Pro that just came out, as well as the Buds and the Buds Plus. So Samsung has taken the Apple route, created their own headphones, hoping that you're going to buy them. They're more expensive than I think most people will want to spend on headphones, but a relatively inexpensive dongle, USB-C to 3.5 millimeter, and the Panasonic. There's a set of Panasonic earbuds that are really great, wired earbuds that are really great. I'll leave a link to them down in the description. They're like $10, and they sound fantastic. If you don't believe me, there's about 20,000 reviews on Amazon that say that they're 4 or 5 stars or better. So I'll leave a link to that down in the description below. But for those of you who are looking for a solution to USB-C to 3.5 millimeter, otherwise, I'm not a big fan of the Buds line, but they're not terrible. So battery life has been excellent. I can only say excellent. I've not had any problems with the battery whatsoever. The phone seems to do a good job of managing apps that are taking a lot of battery. I can get through 2 days with this phone, and that's about standard for a lot of phones out there these days. Samsung has put the right combination of battery size and battery saving efficiency, and I'm running this on the Quad HD 120 hertz screen refresh rate. Now, some of you have had discussions with me about the 120 hertz refresh rate and how awesome it is. I have come to the conclusion that I just can't see it. I don't notice it at all, although I'm sure it's a very nice thing for people who do. The 120 hertz refresh rate has not killed the battery either. So if you're worried about that, thinking about picking up this phone, wanting to run the higher resolution at the 120 hertz refresh rate, then you don't have to worry about that. It's been fine for me. Battery life has been great. So 120 hertz refresh rate is all yours. All you could possibly ever want. So go for it. All joking aside, the Samsung S21 is a really good phone, probably a great phone, but it's so hard to say when phones are so closely matched these days. It's marginally better than its predecessor, miles better than an S phone of a few years ago. If you're upgrading from an S9 or something like that, or even the S10, you will be very impressed with this phone. The S21 line will not let you down. It doesn't matter really what chipset this has in it or any of that kind of stuff. I haven't noticed a hiccup of any kind in my usage of this phone, and I think that's partially the power of the chips as well as the maturity of Android at this point, which is, I mean, very, very good. I'm well known for focusing on the negative when it comes to reviewing phones these days, but with the S21 Ultra, there's really no point in getting negative about this. I could complain about what came before and what this is compared to that, and I've done that to my heart's content at this point. I'm not going to throw this phone under the bus for what it's not compared to others. The S21 doesn't get anything wrong. In my time with it, I went from I'll probably get rid of it after the review to I kind of want to keep it to now it's the phone that I'm using all the time. And that's a pretty good record in what we've got going on in smartphones in 2021. Every phone is good. Every phone will make you happy. But this one actually surprised me. And it's the best that Samsung has to offer at the moment. It might be the best that they've put out so far. And I'm enjoying using it. If you're looking for a really solid phone that's going to get you through several years, or a really solid phone that has all the features that you want, but that doesn't get in its own way with those features, then the S21 Ultra is really great. Whether you're a fanboy, fangirl, or average consumer, the S21 is the best that Samsung has offered maybe in quite a while. I was really impressed with the Note 20 Ultra, but this feels like an even more solid phone with this. And now this phone has S Pen support as well. Now it doesn't have the little silo that you can put it in, but there is a case that has an S Pen that's out now, but completely out of stock. You can't get it. So this might be the end of the Note line now that I think about it, but that's a topic for another video. Samsung, good job. You've proven me wrong in the sense that I didn't think that you were going to be able to keep making the phones better, keep pulling them together, but you've done it. And I'm enjoying this phone, and I'm likely going to hold on to it here for quite a little bit. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I do appreciate it. If you haven't been here before, I hope you come back again. If you've been here before, thank you for coming back again. My name is Jason. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. Until the next time, I'm out.